Home is where connections are made, memories are formed, and ideas are born. And no one knows home better than NFM. Thanks for tuning in to I Am Home, the podcast that goes deeper than trends and dives into what it means to make your house a home.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to I Am Home, the podcast for all things home life. I'm Hilary Woltemath, your host, and today I'm flying solo because we had the amazing opportunity to have a guest in the studio, and we just couldn't pass it up. This month, we are all about cozy comfort, and today we're exploring the world of performance fabrics. I'm thrilled to have Penny Eudy, the Director of Retail Sales at Z Wovens, joining me. And if you haven't thought much about performance fabrics, get ready. This episode is going to open your eyes and change how you think about fabrics in your home. But before we get to that, let me tell you why we're even doing this podcast. And that's because NFM is more than just your everything home store. We're in the business of improving lifestyles because your home life should be your best life. Learn more at nfm.com. Well, welcome, Penny.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled.
We are so thrilled to have you here in the studio. So
Thank you.
Let's tell the listeners a little bit about you. You earned your interior design degree at Appalachian State University and then kicked off your career at Klausner Furniture.
Yes.
As a merchandising manager and showroom designer, where you spent nearly 10 and a half years.
Yes, ma'am.
And then after that, you were a product manager of stationery upholstery at Thomasville.
Yes.
Then moved on to a similar role at Lazy Boy for over 18 years.
Yes.
And now you are the Director of Retail Sales at Z Wovens, where you've been for over 2 years now.
That is correct. Thrilled to be here.
Yes. So when I say you are an expert, I am not kidding. With over 33 years in the home furnishings industry, and not to mention at some of the biggest furniture manufacturers in the industry too.
Absolutely. I had no idea coming out of App State that I was going to be introduced to the best in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really had no idea as a 22-year-old. I call it young, dumb, and green. You come out, you don't have a clue. I didn't do the research I was supposed to. You know, I heard about the job. I go to Asheboro, North Carolina, and I meet with the president, J.B. Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know they're the largest privately owned company in the country at the time. And I also didn't know I was going to be learning from the absolute best in the industry.
Yeah.
So moving from there, I often say every job I've had in the industry has come from relationships I built while at Klausner, and to include the one I'm in now. So it's just been an easy transition too, to go to the fabric side, because I know textiles. I have 2 minors in merchandising and marketing, and I learned textiles in college. So it just, again, was an easy transition, and it's just been a whirlwind for a girl from a really small town.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
Yes.
Well, we like to do a lot of research as much as we can online before we bring our guests on. And after a little social media stalking, we saw that you have a cat named Tiggy.
Yes.
He looks like quite the little rascal.
He
too.
is a rascal. He is 4 now. He was found in one of our friends' backyard, and we syringe fed him. He was less than 3 weeks old. He's wonderful. I don't have children, but my fur babies are my 2 just loves.
Yes.
And then Winnie is his new sister, who may or may not be on social media quite yet. She's only 2, but the names had to go together. You know, I can't be in a fashion industry and not name my cats.
Yes.
Like they go together, right?
We love a theme.
They're wonderful. Yes, they're wonderful.
I love that. Well, we are big pet people on the podcast, so we of course had to
bring up my babies. Yes.
But digging into our topic at hand, you're kind of talking about your career. Like, what made you decide to pursue this type of career?
This is where it gets kind of interesting. I was at Appalachian. I was the president of the interior design club on campus my last 2 years there. I was responsible for getting guest speakers, much like what you're doing here. I was the one who had to pull them in twice a year. We had what we call a design day.
Okay.
So I called a lady who worked for Alderman Studios in High Point, North Carolina. And that studio does a lot of the beautiful room scene photography that you see in advertisements and in commercials and things like that. She spoke, gave me her card. I thought nothing of it because I had no idea at the time where I was going to go. I just knew it wouldn't be back to my hometown, right? I knew. So when I did end up moving to the Greensboro High Point area a year later, I found her card, and she knows JB Davis and said, you need to go call him and go meet with him. He is looking for a young female because he had the foresight. This was in the 90s. Oh, aging myself. He had the foresight to see a trend in female buyers on the retail level who were coming into Klausner and shopping, and they didn't have any women in those roles of selection of fabrics. So he knew that all 15 of the gentleman sales guys were not going to be able to meet, the fashion end of it.
Yeah.
They were going by strictly numbers alone. So I did. I went and I don't mean to make it sound like it was easy, but it kind of was, because I was exactly what he needed.
Yeah.
I was an uneducated in the industry female that he could teach and do business and kind of mold me into what they needed. And that's what happened. And along the way, I just met a lot of great people. I would probably have been there until their doors unfortunately closed if I hadn't just wanted a little bit more.
Sure.
So I wanted to grow and went to Thomasville. I'm still great friends with all of them, and it was a wonderful experience. But I didn't go to college even knowing there were roles like that, much less saying that's what I want to do.
Sure.
I landed in it, which makes me think it was just the thing I needed to do.
You were meant to do.
Meant to do it. And I've loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all have to love it, or we would, go a little bit crazier than normal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, it's been a ride.
Growing up, were you interested in interior design, or did you look from the list and be like, that sounds fun and interesting?
Quite honestly, I started out with an overall business degree, plan, until I had to take calculus or something. It was like this class that numbers and I do not do well. So I said, I've got to change my major. My mom's like, what? I said, I can't do this, So all of the classes that it took to get a general business degree weren't I've always had a more creative side.
Sure.
I've always been kind of out there with my personality and things, as if people can't tell that right now. And I don't know, it just seemed to fit. And learning came easy for me in that category.
Yeah.
So then I loved the textiles. I've always thought about textiles more as art versus, anything else, upholstery. Some things are so beautiful, I can't believe people sit on them, kind of thing. So it really just worked out kind of the way it should have, I feel like.
Yeah, I love that. I can relate to that so much as a marketing major. And I later added a minor in textiles, clothing design. And to your point about being easier, once you end up in your passion, you're like, this requires so much less work.
It is. It's not work anymore.
Right.
And in my interior design classes, I was thrilled when they had textiles. And then, even it's evolved even at App State. Now the program has become even larger, where they do lighting classes and things. We didn't have all of that. All of us, frontier people, didn't have all of the lighting and everything. But I was thrilled to have the textiles and even the marketing and merchandising aspects of it. They did a lot of fashion classes. To your point, when you mentioned that, it prompted me. I took 2 of those just because it was still textile related and kind of gave you insight into how all of it worked.
Yeah.
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 So it was
fun.
fun.
That's so fascinating. So for people who aren't familiar, can you tell us about Z-Wovens and what does Z-Wovens do?
Oh my gosh, we are, and I've bought from Z-Wovens for years, by the way, so I can come at it from two different perspectives. Z-Wovens is the largest, it's one of the largest, if not the largest weaving facility in China. I have been to the facilities. I've been to China several times on the merchandising or manufacturing side. They are number one in weaving. Absolutely, and bar none. We do have a sourcing director now who has gotten us into other avenues like embroidered goods, knit goods, things like that are just really timely. But we don't have the looms for, the machinery for.
Sure.
But we are top-notch weavers. We have designers who are in the U.S. in Barrington, Rhode Island, and we of course have full design staff in China who they all work very closely together, but it starts in the U.S. So we have people who are very familiar with the U.S. market, color families, textures, whatever the current trends are, and they design everything, send it to China, and it's woven over there. And we've actually built a new facility that we're all going to go take a look at in the upcoming week to top of the line, industry capacity over there.
Yeah. Well, how exciting. And these textiles are used in a number of different applications, right?
Oh, mostly obviously residential interiors. We do some contract, but mostly it's residential interiors, sofas, and we're the supplier to people from, we did supply Klausner, but everybody from Lazy Boy to Jackson to Jonathan Lewis to Craftmaster to, from low to high.
Nearly everyone.
Nearly everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing. And I think that's the piece that most people don't understand, that's a separate entity from even like the construction and the frame of
absolutely
upholstered goods.
Absolutely. And that was how I had no idea. People, I feel like, know a little more about clothing, but they don't understand that the home furnishings is just as much fashion as the clothing. And you don't even think about the different weaves and all the different things that have to happen to make that sofa go into your home.
Right.
I think everyone should go see a weaving mill. I really do think everyone should go see it because it's fascinating at what has to happen to get a loom set up.
Right.
To produce all these beautiful constructions. And we do everything from, chenille constructions, jacquards to, like I said, very fine bouclés up to chunky bouclés, like all kinds of different constructions.
Yeah, literally everything.
Literally everything. Yes.
Well, let's talk about performance fabrics specifically. Seems to be a growing trend. We're certainly seeing more and more of it in the product that we carry. Can you explain what makes fabric a performance fabric, and how is that different than the fabric we would expect to see on furniture?
Oh, yes. Well, sometimes the yarns, like a polyester yarn, for example, inherently has characteristics that help it be more cleanable. Acrylic is the same. Performance fabrics, though, can take on a totally different meaning. Some people, for the interior of a home, if it's going to be resistant to spills, you still want it soft because you're living in it. You're living in it. And so our solution dyed polyester line is very soft in hand. We have solution dyed poly yarns, chenille and bouclés that we weave, so the hand is soft, but it's still resistant to those spills. Then you have the aspect of it going outdoor.
Right.
So when it's outdoor, that performance becomes even a whole different ball game because you've got the light fastness that happens out there. So you can step up. Our solution dyed poly will go outdoors, but you can step up to our acrylic product line, which is going to give you even more light fastness and things like that. But performance, indoor, I feel like when you have kids or animals or whatever, maybe it's just you and you like to sit and binge, Netflix all weekend and you spill your red wine, which is kind of the little arena I fall into. To be able to get to it really quickly and to clean it up and for it to last as long as possible and be beautiful so you don't mind having family and friends over, I think it's wonderful. That to me is where we're seeing a lot of more of performance be important because they still want the lighter colors, the lighter airy colors, and they want to be able to clean it and maintain it.
Yeah. Furniture is becoming more and more of an investment.
Yes.
And the performance fabrics are helping you extend the life of your furniture, of your investment.
Absolutely. And it's a very emotional purchase
Mm-hmm.
too. You know, I think COVID probably boosted that even more because we were all stuck in our homes. And quite
Yes.
frankly, we all got tired
Uh-huh.
of seeing all of it. But it's always been, I've done a ton of research too, like you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier. It's always been a very emotional investment.
Mhm.
But now I feel like it's even more so because people learned how to spend more time at home with family and friends. So that investment needs to mean more to them.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
performance fabric helps them do that.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
such a great point. So what is it exactly that makes them so durable? Is it in how they're made? Is it like this treatment that's applied?
Well, the treatment, I'm glad you brought up the
Mhm.
treatment. I don't know if a lot of consumers realize that the treatments that made them water repellent,
Mhm.
there's a big difference between repelling and resisting. And there's also a big difference between the oil-based stains and the water-based stains.
Mhm.
To make a performance fabric repel and resist oil-based stains, the chemicals you have to use are not environmentally friendly.
Sure.
They are also not overly friendly for us as humans.
Mhm.
Pets, everything. So I forget now how many years it has been, but quite a few years ago, there was a large push to get rid of those toxic chemicals,
Mhm.
rightfully so. So the industry started to create, even though they're not as robust, it's water-based stains that they will repel and resist for most of the non-harmful toxic chemicals, but it still does the job. So that's part of it.
Mhm.
That is applied after the fabric is woven, and some of it's inherent in the yarn itself. So at least people can rest easy now. The whole industry has had to go to that. And we're now working on pretty much everybody who's on this side of it is working on a way to develop a non-harmful, more robust version for the oil-based stains, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing is that it's not only that treatment, but it's also the way the fibers, the yarns are woven together.
Mhm.
If it's a looser weave, you're obviously going to get more that's going to go into
Through it.
through
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So the tighter the weave, that's helpful.
Mhm.
Sometimes the chenilles, the stain will float on top, for lack of
Mhm.
a better word, with that. So it's really a combination of how all of that comes together: the type of yarn you're using, the type of weave you're doing, and then the finish that's applied.
Yeah. Who would have thought
I know it's you have to have a certain degree, and luckily we have a gentleman who has that degree
Yeah.
and is very, oh my gosh, he's our wizard behind
Yeah.
the curtain,
Yeah.
who just makes all this stuff happen. He's wonderful.
Yeah.
Our whole team over there, but he leads the team and is just so good at pulling all of that together, because nobody would ever imagine, to your point.
Yeah. And performance fabrics aren't necessarily a new thing, but there's been quite an evolution. You talked about, the chemicals that are used, making them more environmentally friendly. But what other types of like evolutions have happened in? I mean, imagine it started with like one fabric that was considered performance fabric to now like almost any color, texture.
Oh, the textures is the biggest thing that comes to mind when you ask that question. All the toxin, all that aside, all that safety, environmental stuff. It used to be, oh my gosh, I keep aging myself. It used to be that you would have kind of a suede, like really flat, tight woven, kind of a knit, for lack of a better word. And that was all you could get. That was it. And it didn't feel great.
Right.
So the hand of the product is the first thing I would say that has evolved. And that's happened in not so, I mean, like in the past 2 to 5 years, I would
Right.
say. The texture part of it, though, to be able to incorporate all of that knowledge and get the different types of yarns like the chenille and the boucle. Typically, boucle, which is, in layman's terms, a twisted yarn.
Right.
Very, very loopy, very twisty.
Like
raw.
Yeah.
It used to not feel, it just did not have a good hand inherently to be able to have softness. Because if you think about, if you're sitting on this stuff, sleeping on it, living your life on it, your babies are crawling around on it, it's got to be soft. So the hand of it has been phenomenal. And to be able to do that in the different kinds of weaves and constructions has been amazing. We just met today with Shane and Megan to show them our products, and they were like thrilled to see all the different textures and the designs that you can create with those different textures, from eyelash yarns to boucles to jacquards. I mean, that texture, and to be able to layer and get that really casual kind of feeling in a home has been a wonderful evolution.
Yeah, you bring up another good point. It's kind of like gone mostly are the days where you have like your formal sitting area that is a specialty fabric, and it's not for sitting. It's really just for look. I mean, maybe sitting only, but nothing is
that would be it.
Yes.
You look at it.
Yes. Yeah, just for looks, not for touch.
Yes.
But now that's evolved in a lot of ways, and like you can have like a beautiful fashion forward piece of furniture, but it's also very functional too. Like it's comfortable to lounge on.
Absolutely.
It stands up to pets, kids, spills.
All of it.
Everything.
Absolutely. I mean, we live, how many of us have the kitchen that opens to the den, that opens to the dining room?
Yep.
And you're all hanging out in the kitchen, mostly, but for that open living where everything is utilized, it becomes even more critical.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point. So with all of this evolution, is it because there's been more of a demand for these types of fabrics, or is it more maybe along the lines that like, here's an opportunity where we can really like improve lifestyles?
I truly think it's a little of both. And I know that's kind of like, oh, great, you're going to pick the middle of the road. Yes. But I do feel like it's both, because if you're following any of the trends in how people live, how people shop, it's a totally different world we live in now than when I mean, I'm in my 50s than when I was growing up, because you did have those rooms in everyone's house. Don't go in that room because, and it didn't really matter because people just weren't, I don't want to say they weren't as social,
right?
But they weren't as social in their home, that much.
Yeah.
We're evolving there. We're also evolving where the kids are involved a lot more in the socialization, in that you may have the adults in one room and the kids are all playing in another. That did not happen.
Right.
Growing up, the kids were
like quarantined to their rooms,
or let the adults be in here. And it's not that way anymore.
Yeah.
So I believe that a lot of that is coming from more of a demand for it in the way we're living, that the opportunity, you've got to be able to see the opportunity and go after it. And Z Wovens, I can tell you, we are very responsive and always have been when it comes to things like that. Our owner is a product person. He knows how to weave. He grew up weaving. He's very responsive. So, you've got to be able to capitalize on those opportunities as well. But the needs got to be there.
Yeah.
The desire's got to be there.
Makes perfect sense. I understand why you kind of picked the middle of the
both
road.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about trends a little bit, and wanted to pick your brain on any trends in terms of performance fabrics. And I was checking out the website, and at first look, I was blown away in the colors, patterns, and textures. It was like almost overwhelming, the amount of options.
It can be. Too. Yes, it can be. And it's kind of our job in sales to know our customer, right? But that's what we're all about. We want to want to give everybody the opportunity to love us, you know? So and again, I referenced our wonderful designers. These ladies, I mean, my goodness, they do their research too. And what they are able to produce has been phenomenal. But especially in the performance arena, because we've been pushing them, you know, for sales, it's never enough.
Right.
Like, we need this. You gave us 5, we need 45, you know, maybe a tiny exaggeration, but we are always pushing them. And especially with our solution dyed poly brand that is doing so well for us on the residential side, the color becomes so important. And we all know, I feel like in this industry, ultimately neutrals sell 85 to 90% of the time. That statistic has been true since I was 22.
Right.
And it always will be. You know, the consumer though does want to get excited about it. They want to see the color. They want to have fun with their pillows and their chairs. So really in the performance arena, the color has been a big deal, especially for acrylic products and people who are just going to use acrylic or polyester outside. You know, it's a totally different kind of color. You're a little more apt to go a little more daring outside, I think. So to be able to provide all those colors, and we invest a lot in yarns, new yarns, and different types of yarns, and the color comes along with it. It's been really wonderful.
Yeah, we hear that feedback a lot too. If you look out on our floor, like 80% of it is probably pretty neutral, and that's what sells, but we're constantly getting requests for color. So people are open to it. They like to see it. That may not be the time now, or they might be finding other opportunities to kind of infuse some color. But if, you know, there's fabric options that are going to stand the test of time also in different colors, I think that helps give a little bit of confidence or encouragement to
absolutely
bring a little more self-expression.
And it can, yes, absolutely. And I feel like it also has some to do with the phase of life you may be in.
Sure.
You know, you may be, you know, empty nesting and you want to just get really bold because you may have had a color in your home that your kids, like, it could hide the dirt, whatever the case may be. But to be able to, like you said, express yourself in that type of way, I think people, depending on their stage in life, are going to be a little more apt to take that step out.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned this briefly before, but maybe you want to talk a little bit more about performance fabrics being more eco-friendly or sustainable. That's a growing concern.
Yes.
And you talked a little bit about the treatment of the fabrics, but I also noticed on the website there's the Z-Cycle collection that I think it was like antimicrobial and maybe more
recycled yarns and things like that. Now, truthfully, and this is not just true for Z Wovens, it's true for it. There is a big push for sustainability. I mean, we all know what we're doing. I mean, not to get that deep, but we all know what we're doing to this planet. Like, it's crazy. And so it is at top of mind for a lot of people. What we have seen, however, is that it's been slow to make that entry into the residential. We do have the Z-Cycle, and it's recycled yarns. A lot of our competitors in the woven side of things are doing different types of, you know, recycled bottles that are pulled from the ocean and then turned into a recycled yarn and used in fabric. I mean, it's crazy. The technology and the creativity on that end. It's been a very hard transition for the consumer because none of that is inexpensive.
Right.
You know, and it really does take it up a notch when you look at a whole sofa and you want to do, you know, something like that on the entire sofa. But you've got to have it for the people who really want it. It's just been kind of difficult, you know, for the whole industry to get people to pay for it.
Yeah.
Empty the pockets and pay for it. But it is an important part, and there every day or every month, every year, there are new technologies. I feel like this is kind of, I feel like based on research I've done and I continue to do, we're going to see that even grow a little more. It's just we've got to figure out how to make it a little more affordable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I was having a conversation with a coworker about that. We're seeing more eco-friendly, sustainable goods in like the furniture categories have been slower to take off with, like, you know, bamboo and case goods. And to your point about cost right now, it is just not the most like cost effective option. Whereas like in the appliance or electronics world, it's like tied to money savings. Like if you're going the more sustainable route, it's saving you money. Whereas in like your furniture, it's not, you're not seeing like the immediate benefit from making that switch. And unfortunately, some people, like, that has to be priority number one, is what's most cost effective for them as well.
It needs to be. And then a lot of things though have happened, and this is coming directly from my manufacturing background. A lot of changes in the furniture industry have come from the guts, for lack of a better word, of the furniture. So it's not something people see immediately, you know, and nor do they know about it unless somebody tells them that manufacturers are making changes with how the wood is treated, for example, the things that have to be included to build a sofa and a piece of furniture. You know, changes have been made on that end. And a lot of factories are recycling their foam, all of the component parts that go into building furniture that the consumer really doesn't hear about, again, unless they're making it a story. The fabric end of it is what they see and they touch. And that's been another thing, is trying to get that hand out of a recycled yarn, you know, to make that hand and get it cozy, you know, like we were talking about with the other performance types. So that's been a challenge, I feel, for the industry. We, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say we do a really good job of it, but the growth hasn't been there for that category. Like, I think will come if we can all figure out, like, as an industry, that would be a great industry project. Maybe we should put in, you know, to someone, I don't know who, to say, how can we, you know, go get these materials and not make it so unaffordable, because it's just, to your point, top of mind right now with the economy and everything being the way it is.
Yeah, certainly. And I look forward to seeing that evolution happen. And I think if you know, we talked about some of the evolution that's happened to get us to this point, it's, I have some confidence that it will get there. And to your point, there's lots of smart people out there that
way smarter than I can get, you know, and creativity to figure out a way to do that. And I'm with you. The evolution just hasn't been as quick as it has been to go find a different type of yarn, you know, that is a little simpler, you know, and a little faster.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I'd like to shift gears and maybe have you offer up some tips and advice in the world of choosing fabric. So, what advice or tips, tricks would you give to an everyday consumer when choosing performance fabrics for different areas of the home? We've talked about sofas, living room furniture. Are there any other things people should be considering when they're selecting fabrics for any project in the home?
Oh, I think so. I think the biggest thing is, where is it going to be utilized? You know, so many people, we talked earlier about hang out in the kitchen and you have bar stools. A lot of times people don't think about the bar stools, the dining chairs, different things like that could be in your home that could also be performance. So the first thing, so that it's not so overwhelming, is where is it going to be utilized? Because that may make a difference. You can maybe go a little more creative on a bar stool, a little more, step out there and do something a little more decorative on a bar stool or your dining room chairs. And, so that to me is the first thing. Narrow it down a little bit to say, I'm going to use this on my bar stool, or do you want it all over your home? Do you want it at the end of your bed on a bench or whatever? You know, so that to me is the biggest thing. I think people get overwhelmed because there are so many choices, and if they haven't really sat down and thought about what they want the end use to be, that can really be overwhelming. So I think first to, you know, really take a look around your home and look around at how you live. And that may sound funny, but I've been involved in focus groups before where people go, you're asking me how I live. How do you think they don't even know. They don't realize that when you focus on it, you know, you may come up with, oh gosh, I sit on that end of the sofa like 24/7, or, you know, different things like that. So that would be the first thing I would say is, what is the end use and what do you need it to do?
Makes a lot of sense. I remember it was a project here in our design gallery. We had some bar stools that were consultation area that needed reupholstered. They were looking quite worn. And so they tapped on me to help make a decision. And it was like commercial grade fabrics. And that's when I learned about the rub count.
Yes.
And like, you don't think
the
about
abrasion. Yes.
the number of times you slide. You don't like stand up and get out of your seat. You slide out of your seat. And so that like rubbing or abrasion that happens is changing the fabric every time.
And you don't even think about it. And that's why I said, you know, you got to watch where your husband or, you know, your partner lays. Like, does he lay on the chaise the whole time? Because it's going to be a different wear. They're going to stay on it. It's absolutely true. And when you really focus on it and come up with, okay, I probably need more of a commercial grade because, or a contract grade, that abrasion makes a difference. And inherently it's just different for a chenille than it is a tightly woven knit. I mean, it's just different.
It's almost like your screen time report. You're not
nobody wants to look at that.
You're not necessarily like counting the minutes or hours you're spent on that. Similarly with the sofa or your furniture. Like,
we probably don't want to know any of it.
How many hours you're clocking on that piece of furniture.
We really don't want to look into it, but you know, privately we should.
Yes, certainly. So have you seen any examples of where a customer just like really got into performance fabrics in their home, maybe with some interesting choices? Like, have you ever been surprised by anything?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I can't say that I have been surprised by choices that a consumer's making, right? I can't say that I have.
Okay.
Other than they always seem to be surprised, I guess, with how some of the performance fabrics have a soft hand. That seems to be like when I'm walking retail floors and things like that. That always seems to surprise people. They're like, oh, this has such a great hand. Or the opposite of that would be, this can go outside. Like it's that other thing too. Like, really, this can go outside in the sun?
Yeah.
You know, so that it seems that they're more surprised really than I am.
Yeah. You're ahead
but
of,
I'm in
ahead
it,
of the curve, right?
But I'm in it. You know, that makes a difference too.
Yeah. I think that's a great point about like outdoor furniture as well too. Like, even when I started here 11 years ago, like there was like a very obvious difference of like what was outdoor furniture and what was indoor furniture. And now like outdoor furniture has evolved so much. It's so beautiful. You're seeing materials and finishes that you would see on the inside of your home. And that is a great example of the evolution of fabrics and materials. And because it sits out in the sun all day, it gets rained on, or depending on where you live, snow.
Or the heat, just the heat in general. And if you notice, I mean, people took their indoors out. Think of all the outdoor kitchens that are built. You know, I have a friend right now who's building a house in Michigan, and she's putting a big outdoor kitchen. You hang out outside all the time, especially in Michigan when you get very little beautiful weather, like you're out there all the time. So I think people are more surprised if they're not making those purchases except once every 5 to 7 years, which we know because of studies. They're surprised at how good the fabrics look and how good they feel.
It's actually comfortable. It's not
It's
just
actually
like
comfortable.
a metal piece of furniture.
Because to your point, it used to be a lot different. And if you had something outside, you could pretty much exfoliate with it. You know, yes,
that's a great way to describe it. That is a great way to describe it. Could you share any tips or tricks in carrying or maintaining for your upholstered goods that have performance fabrics? Is there anything we could be doing to just extend that life a bit longer?
I would say the biggest thing, and I don't think many people do this unless they have pets. Like I do this every day of my life with my little kitties. Vacuuming the upholstery, not with the brush. I mean, like just the air, but not with like the beater bar. Goes a long way, not just with performance fabrics, but it really can help extend the life of that performance fabric, to vacuum and maintain that. Also to make sure that when they're cleaning, like dabbing the spill instead of, taking a cloth and scrubbing, just dab it. Because odds are you're not going to spill in the same spot over and over and over and over. I think people get, I'm like, it's going to last for a while because you're not spilling in that one spot every single time. So I feel like if they just think about dabbing it with just mild soap and water, I mean, liquid soap and water, and just dab it and get it off as soon as you possibly can. And that's going to extend it. And the vacuuming, I think, is a big thing for upholstery care.
Yeah. Is that because, I mean, not to like start grossing people out, but just the amount of like dirt, debris, dead skin cells, body oils. Like I assume that starts to just like break down the fabrics. Is my assumption correct there?
It can. I'm not so sure about the skin cells and all of that breaking down the fabric, but certainly just the normal everyday usage and wear and tear of it. I mean, this isn't something that's going to last for hundreds of years. I mean, but I think a lot of it, the education to the consumers is important, because yes, that you're living on it. You're living on that piece of furniture, and all of that, the body oils and all of that kind of thing is contributing to the overall wear and tear.
Yeah. Would you say the same thing for like those outdoor fabrics as well?
I think because of the acrylic and the way those are produced and with the finish that's on there, I would still say vacuum it. I just still would. Now, not obviously the low pile things, the things that are a little more flat woven, and covering them, for the outdoor, you can make something outdoors last a lot longer if you invest in covers for the off season. And when you're going on vacation and you're not using it or something. I mean, it's almost like how you would treat your skin if you're in the sun. It's kind of that somebody said that to me, like, treat your upholstery the same as you would, you cover up your skin when you go in the sun. So cover it up when you're not using it. And I think anything you can do like that to protect it more is going to help elongate the life of it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting
I forget who said that to me and why it even came to my head right now, but
I'm gonna file that
you're
away.
Pulling it out.
That's gonna stick with me. That's gonna stick with me. Well, we'll start to wrap things up. I wanted to ask you, are there any exciting innovations on the horizon that we haven't talked about? Is there what can we look forward to, do you think?
I would say that as technology continues to improve, any weaving facility or company like us who has someone that we're fortunate to have, who's just a wonderfully educated, smart individual, to go out, and I think what you're going to see are different types of yarns that are going to allow designers to utilize them in different weaves to give us looks that are more intricate, a little, whether it be chunky, we're still seeing a ton of textures out there. Our company is investing in a lot of weaving equipment. So that's another thing, like weaving equipment and the way things are woven makes a difference to that final piece of product. But I do feel like what's on the horizon will be, you've got to differentiate yourself, and the looks out there start looking very similar, because we all go look around. I mean, we all do it.
Always inspired.
Always inspired. And, especially if something's doing really well, then you're like, oh, we got to get on that bandwagon, So I feel like it's going to be just urgent for us to make sure we're investing in different types of yarns and different types of looks, so that our designers can, not be just use all of their imagination for that. I think that's what you're going to start seeing, and especially in the performance fabrics.
Yeah, I love that. We've talked a lot on the podcast about like home is becoming more and more like a reflection of you and your life, and some self-expression, and like encouraged to be different and try new things. You don't have to make choices because that's the way it's always been done, or that's like the norm. We're kind of breaking outside of that. So that's so encouraging and exciting to hear that.
We absolutely are. And here's the thing, like it used to be, the world used to be a lot bigger, in that I can remember how home furnishings would be so far behind like fashion or clothing would be, and even home goods like towels and things like that, that finally it would come around, 2 to 3 years later for your sofa. And I feel like now with smartphones in everybody's hands, and we're all watching the do-it-yourself, networks and things like that. And the world shrunk with that. And people are being inspired in a lot of different ways. And self-expression is not taboo anymore. It's more readily accepted. So I do feel like that's transferring into how we live in the home, and you can do that neutral sofa and then add some really funky pillows and colors and things like that, and just switch them out. I mean, people are just not as afraid to do that anymore.
Yeah, that's great. That's a wonderful way to kind of wrap this up. So thank you so much, Penny.
Oh, thank you.
For joining us
thrilled
today.
to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, and you
really I'm flattered.
Enlightened us on the wonderful world of fabrics. I know I certainly learned a lot.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners. We appreciate you, and we want to hear from you too. So we're still accepting listener questions to feature on the show. Check out our new website at nfm.com/podcast to submit questions, photos, voice memos, whatever you've got. Essentially, we're offering free advice on all of your home life questions. So submit your questions at nfm.com/podcast. And finally, remember, home life is what you make it.
Thanks for joining us today for I Am Home with Tyler Weisskopf, Hilary Woltemath, and Becca Sudbeck. No one knows home quite like NFM. So if you'd like more information on home design at NFM, please check out nfm.com and leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice.